tells him that there are always many variables associated with those who make contracts with evil spirits. Herka's decision to stop him in one fell swoop after long preparation was not wrong. But how does Malone stay alive after becoming a contractor? As Khan understands it, contractors are provided with enormous strength in exchange for their lives, and once that power is exhausted, the person dies. Herka mentions that the mages dispatched from the fortress have analyzed it. There is no particular reason why it would have turned out this way, but according to the cadets who participated in the battle, Malone was released from possession after being stabbed by Vincent, and that arm he lost could not be reattached. Khan wonders if Vincent used that strange swordsmanship he used in the assembly of the true swords. Khan decides to take disciplinary action against Malone, since he crossed the boundaries of a martial artist by forming a contract with an evil spirit. He will be confined for the rest of his life, when honestly the best thing would be to kill him. But that's my opinion. Malone's imagery will be completely sealed and his every sinew will be severed so that he can never hold a sword again. The next thing is to give Vincent a reward, but he was taken to the main house after having his wounds treated, although he still hasn't opened his eyes for a few days. Vincent was in this dimension with Julian, who also doesn't know where they are. They were both sent there just after Vincent lost consciousness. But after looking around, Julian comes to the conclusion that they are inside Malone's memories. But why are they there? It may be related to that random swordsmanship Vincent used. Vincent has no idea what's going on, since that's something that never happened to him in his past life, when he was still Davin. Malone, the contract and the absolute sword slash, how is this all connected? Vincent notices a memory of Malone talking to Vargan, who told him that he, being a son of the Adanka, must go all in. Everything indicated that there was a reason why Vargan was allowing Malone to go free. Malone began to meditate. There both Julian and Vincent realized that they were watching the mana flow of the lightning giant. But something strange starts to happen. Julian disappears and the atmosphere changes completely. Then Vincent meets who used to be his mother in his past life. He was living his memories as Davin. Teacher Nedia, Falcon, Arslan, he saw them all walking away. Vincent shouted at them that he just wanted to know what happened after his death 500 years ago. Then he is pierced by none other than Kajan. Then he sees himself tied up in Samian's prison. This was his life inside those walls. Things got even weirder. Vincent, while tied up, saw the little Arslan outside the prison and then the same as an adult, which doesn't seem to make much sense, as the last time Vincent saw Arslan was when he visited him in prison. He never saw Arslan grown up before. This Arslan tells Vincent that Arslan is Julian, but Vincent failed to listen properly, so he desperately asks him to repeat what he said. Arslan tells him to meet again in 500 years no matter what. The atmosphere changes again. Vincent calls out Arslan's name, but by the time he realizes, he has woken up, completely confused by everything he has seen. Julian was worried because Vincent suddenly disappeared. Vincent's body is now healed, but what were those memories? Did the adult Arslan go to see him before he died? Sari and Wilson were happy that Vincent finally woke up. He thanks them both for caring about him. Herka goes to see Vincent too. She tells Vincent that she reported the incident to Khan. Vargan is better at guarding the fortress than she is, so he does. Herka mentions that she is planning to take care of some things in the central area and return in about 3 days with Vincent. Next, she wants to ask him for a small favor to have a duel with the young master of the Samian family. Herka wants Vincent to compete in a friendly exchange match. It's an event where members of the Samian family and Adanka who are into martial arts compete against each other. It's a big event that both family patriarchs will see. And the friendly exchange match that year will be held at the Crimson Fortress, so the current patriarch of the Samian family will be there. Vincent asks Herka what is the reason he is mentioning all this to him now. This is because Malone was originally going to participate in the event. But as things happen that way, the only direct descendant of Adanka and closest in age and ability is Vincent. When he was in Malone's memories earlier, he saw him and Vargan talking about this friendly exchange match. Vincent's opponent will be the 6th son of the Samian family, a genius who is expected to become the next patriarch. Everyone, including Malone, didn't think they would win this match in the first place. Apart from the second daughter, Dea, no one has ever won the friendly exchange match before. Vincent accepts, but clearly doesn't intend to lose. He's going to try to win. Herka tells him to take responsibility for the words he just said. Next, Khan enters the room. Vincent promises Khan that he will be victorious in the friendly exchange match. Vincent's internal injury is pretty severe for Mana, so both Herka and Khan will leave so he can rest. Now that they mention it, they haven't rewarded Vincent for all he did before. Khan tells Herka that he will accompany her when they return to the fortress, and they will engrave Vincent's name on the Crimson Monument. Khan will do it personally. In the fortress, there is a large monument where the names of Adanka's heroes are engraved. Those who have achieved great things have their names engraved on this monument. Herka acknowledges that Vincent has done great things, but no one who is rank 9, with the exception of Dea, has been engraved on that monument. Vincent thinks about the friendly exchange meeting. The will of the Adanka family is to surpass the Samian family. It is a great opportunity to find out about the current level of the Samian family. Vincent asks Julian about the 6th son of Samian. Julian doesn't know anything, as he didn't expect things with Malone to turn this way. He didn't bother to look into the friendly exchange match. Although Vincent has the element of surprise in his favor with absolute sword slash, it won't be impossible to defeat the 6th son. But the odds are still low. Replacing imagery theory, Vincent will get at most 3 stars, but his opponent, who has been educated by Samian's elite, will be at least 3 stars or even higher. Vincent is sure that the difference in strength will be great. That's why he should start moving his body, even though he has not fully recovered from the internal wound of his mana. His body is healed. He just needs to refrain from using mana. Vincent begins to train, then Ravan appears, reminding him that they are at the place where they first clashed swords. Ravan heard that Vincent had been injured, but more importantly, about the favor Vincent asked of Ravan before he left. Ravan managed to find out something about what happened 500 years ago. In fact, he found out something he is not sure about. Ravan was curious about his family. No one in that family was distinguished by his strength, except him. The size of the land and properties are quite common compared to the rest of the collateral descendants. Ravan finds it strange that his father, who is not especially extraordinary in the martial arts or especially wealthy, was able to participate in the assembly of the true swords as a regular spectator all these years. After he asked repeatedly, his father gave him an answer. Charles takes Ravan to a secret passageway that not even the Patriarch of Adanka can enter without his permission. In that place are the hidden archives, the history of Adanka that is unknown to the eyes of the world. Everything about the first Adanka, and the stories of light and darkness, everything is there. Charles' family has obtained the high status by keeping those archives for generations. Even after 500 years, if the library were to be opened to the public, the ones who would suffer loss would be them, as they are the ones who have run the library as a family business. There was also a record of the Hisley family there. Vincent is glad, as it is possible that there is also a record left to prove his innocence. However, Ravan has to inherit his father's position to show something to Vincent. There is still a long way to go. Vincent asks Ravan if he is okay with that, as he has just revealed highly classified information about his family. But for Ravan it is nothing. Ravan almost forgot something important, a magic crystal. He went to repair his broken sword and Hansen asked him to give that magic crystal to Vincent. Although Hansen is not sure if that crystal works properly since it hasn't been used for a long time. What Vincent is seeing is a recorded message. Communication crystals are absurdly expensive. Hansen left the crystal with Vincent explaining the basic functions, lighting or simple video recordings. But now to the important point. Hansen will tell him what he found out about the dragon skeleton. Honestly, it is nothing out of the ordinary, but Hansen realized that you cannot reforge a perfect dragon skeleton sword. Hansen reminds Vincent of the fire in the smithy. He finally found the cause when he started to hammer Crimson Lotus after transplanting the dragon skeleton. A flame that could not be contained sparked. The dragon skeleton absorbs the user's mana temperature. Hansen has a blessing called Unwavering Flame from a great god. Anyway, this means Crimson Lotus could have absorbed that power and caused the explosion. It is practically impossible to forge something of that nature safely. Hansen doesn't think he is able to forge a sword that is better than Crimson Lotus right now, unless he uses the dragon skeleton to make a hammer out of it. After Hansen experimented with a small piece of the dragon skeleton, he realized that the power absorbed by the dragon skeleton does not affect other parts of the skeleton. But by doing this, Hansen will have nothing left to use as material to forge Vincent's sword. He is just telling him that to let him know, even though it is very unlikely. After this, the recording ends. Vincent thinks that if he had more of the dragon skeleton, he could get the perfect sword. Ravan goes back to the smithy. Since he left his sword there, he tells Vincent that if he has anything to tell Hansen, to let him know now. Vincent tells him to inform Hansen to forge a hammer using the dragon skeleton, as he will try to obtain the additional skeleton, and then forge the sword. The two say goodbye. Later, Julian thinks that the information Ravan and Hansen gave Vincent is completely useless, but Vincent clarifies that this is not the case. All possibilities are open. All they have to do is get stronger and get away, and the start of all that will be winning against the 6th son of Samian. Vincent asks Julian to think of a way to defeat the sixth son of Samian. Julian tells him that for now, it is impossible. He could barely defeat Malone when he had not yet been possessed. How does he expect to win against someone so much stronger? Malone's trait was a little hard to handle. Julian tells Vincent that if they were able to get the blessing of the lightning giant, maybe they could win. Vincent thinks it's impossible. But it's not. You saw the mana flow, right? In Malone's memories. Even though they saw it, Vincent tells him that they can't activate a trait with just a memory. Julian mentions that this would be the case if they were the memories of a human. But if they were the memories of a god, then it would be possible. That means Julian has memorized the mana flow of the lightning giant's mana. Then get the blessing right now. Julian mentions that the lightning type of mana is the most destructive of all the elements, and the lightning giant is the strongest out of all the lightning gods. If they try to get it now, Vincent's body will be destroyed. So before returning to the Crimson Fortress, Vincent must recover as much mana as possible and not use other training methods from 500 years ago. Julian warns him that if he breaks any of these rules, he will not teach him the mana flow of the lightning giant. 3 days later, in the Crimson Fortress, Vincent is arriving. They are in a carriage, and accompanied by many more. Herka tells Vincent that this is because he will be receiving the engraving ceremony. Everyone is at the memorial, including rank 1 representative cadet Hannah Adenka, the third daughter, as well as rank 5 representative cadet Abel Adenka, the fourth son, and rank 8 representative cadet Damian Adenka, the fifth son. All were there for the ceremony. Malone aside, this is the first time Vincent has seen the other descendants directly. They all look amazing to him, especially the rank 1 representative girl, Hannah. She even gives Vincent the creeps. Selbera and Sizen are also there. People heard the rumors that the Patriarch will be responsible for engraving Vincent's name on the monument. And so it is, he is already there. Khan asks Vincent to introduce himself. Vincent did not expect to receive such a great gift. Khan asks for his sword, then he will start the engraving with Vincent's sword. Even though Khan barely put any mana into holding the sword, he pushed everyone back with his power. Vincent's name was finally engraved. Khan tells Vincent to never forget his name, Vincent Adenka. The boys were talking about how great the ceremony was. Selbera enters the room and asks about Vincent. She wanted to throw him a congratulatory party, but she can't find him anywhere. Vincent is in the training camps meditating. Julian gives him instructions, but he can't concentrate and starts crying from happiness for having received that award when he used to be called a good-for-nothing. He is happy, as Khan finally recognized him as a son. Vincent doesn't care much. He has much more to achieve, so they can't waste time on trivial things. They need to get the blessing of the lightning giant if they want to meet Khan's expectations. So Julian stops crying and they resume meditation. Julian tells Vincent that he must concentrate on forming the perfect triangle. After a moment, he manages to form it and a great bolt of lightning strikes. The lightning giant had appeared before them. Everything seemed to indicate that they had succeeded. However, Vincent begins to writhe in pain. The lightning energy is completely out of control. The lightning giant starts addressing Vincent. He mentions that there have been people like him from time to time. Julian wonders what happened. The god says he was summoned by activating the blessing, and all he did was give him the blessing as he wished. But Julian doesn't think a human could get that way with just that, as Vincent had restored his body before meditating. The god mentions the skeleton. Vincent's physical body absorbed the mana like cotton wool, and received more power than usual. Julian asks him what they should do, as if things continue like this, Vincent will die. The god tells him it is simple. They should just stop the flow of mana. However, if they stop it now, the god will not grant another blessing. Vincent has two choices, die or live and receive the blessing. Julian thinks that nothing the god says makes sense. He mentions that he was summoned by them. Does it make sense that Vincent has taken more power than he should? The god tells Julian to know his place. Vincent also doesn't stop the flow of mana, as he knows he won't receive the blessing if he stops. He must control the lightning energy and keep it with his body. That's what he has to do first to fully receive the blessing. Julian cannot stand idle in this situation. Even though his divine energy is weak, he can try to protect Vincent's heart. Julian enveloped Vincent's heart with his divine energy, but it's not enough. That power is not at a level Julian can handle. The lightning energy is surging from Vincent's heart. Vincent must hold on a little longer. If his heart explodes, it will be over for both of them. Julian seems to be fading from using too much divine energy. He doesn't want to die, but if he stops using his powers now, it will all end badly. Next, it looks like it's all over for Vincent. Apparently his heart has exploded. Julian desperately cries out for help. Then someone arrives on the scene. the same person who healed Malone, the priest who was sent from the fortress. Julian understands now. His voice can reach those who have holy powers. Despite the situation, Vincent has not given up yet. That's why Julian will not give up either. Julian speaks to the priest, who asks him who he is. Julian replies that he is the god known to Vincent, then asks him to heal him, as he is in a bad state, but the priest cannot get close to him because of the lightning. Julian comes up with the idea of blocking the lightning from reaching the priest so that he can heal Vincent. Julian blocks the lightning energy surrounding Vincent's whole body. Now it's time. With Gaia's light, the priest starts to heal Vincent. Now we go to Sari, who went to see Vargan, because she wants to learn sorcery. Vargan tells Sari that when he saved her from the rubble on that occasion, he felt a strong mana in her body. Just like Vincent, the mana that covers Sari's body is beyond the understanding of current magical studies. Vargan warns her that it will not be easy to learn magic, and he has never taught anyone nicely, yet she wants to learn. Vincent keeps growing and is going deep down a path where Sari can't help him. All she can do for now is take care of him when he comes back with injuries. She doesn't want that anymore. She wants to be of more help. What she doesn't know is that right now Vincent is dying. Anyways, Vargan tells Sari that she needs Vincent's permission to train because she is a servant. Suddenly, they realize that something is happening. Vargan and Sari go to the place, where they meet Vincent and the priest Shevin. Fortunately, Vincent is safe, and not only that, he has received an opportunity. He got what he wanted. Sari asks Vincent for permission to learn magic. Julian tells Vincent that it's a great opportunity, as Sari would learn magic from a powerful sorcerer. Vincent notices that Julian looks a little faded. Vincent agrees to Sari learning magic, then tells Vargan to take good care of her. As Vargan monitored Malone's growth, he notices that Vincent now possesses the giant lightning bolt. He lost sight of it for only a moment and Vincent became even stronger. Vincent begins to think he never had a teacher, so he has not been able to learn some of the swordsmanship that Arslan left for the Attica. Vincent tells Arslan that since the friendly exchange match is coming up, he needs to train hard, so he gets to the point. Where is the teacher who will take on the role of training Vincent in the fortress? Vargan doesn't know what Vincent means by this, and replies that Vincent has to get his teacher on his own. The elder of each family promotes the boy who has the potential to be the successor patriarch with a teacher. A martial artist can be a volunteer as well. For collateral descendants, the family elders come directly. Vargan realizes that Vincent does not yet have an elder to promote him. Julian makes it clear that they have no elders on their side. He is ashamed to say, but no one would have been the promoter of the good-for-nothing Vincent. Vincent thinks if there is someone who can help him, there is only one place. Wilson takes a letter from Vincent to Raelsa, which was originally addressed to the patriarch, but Wilson was afraid to stand in front of him. Raelsa takes the letter to Khan. Upon reading it, Khan tells Raelsa that Vincent needs a teacher. The letter also said that Vincent had managed to acquire Malone's lightning giant. Khan knows that Vincent sent the letter there because that's the only place he can ask for help right now. So Khan mentions to Raelsa that since she trained Vincent before, why doesn't she go as his teacher? She refuses, as she uses the swordsmanship of her ruined family, not the Attica, and if she teaches Vincent too much, he will only pick up bad habits. In that case, what can Khan do to help Vincent? Raelsa mentions to him that there is someone appropriate, someone who is in fact well known to Khan, a powerful person who uses the swordsmanship of the Attica, possessor of the lightning giant, whom they referred to as the thunder giant, Merlin, whom we already knew. With the patriarch's authority, Khan can provide him with access to the fortress so that Merlin can become Vincent's master. Khan mentions that in order to do so, Merlin has to want to help, but he need not worry, as Merlin is Raelsa's friend. She will be able to convince him. Merlin remembers Vincent as he passes the place where Vincent used to train. Then Raelsa approaches him. Merlin immediately assumes that Raelsa is not there to ask him how he is. Raelsa offers him a new position within the Yellow Dragon unit. Merlin refuses at first as the word sword is not even included in the unit's name. Raelsa tells him that there will be someone there who will be happy to teach him, then mentions Vincent. Raelsa tells him that the elders won't even see him, and he is too young. The chances for him to become the potential patriarch are quite low, and there will be no more sponsors. Merlin refuses again, but is surprised to hear that Vincent acquired the blessing of the lightning giant. Now things change. He is interested, but has many reasons not to teach Vincent. Merlin is being kicked out of different places because the elders don't like him, and yet Raelsa wants him to teach someone who has not been chosen by the elders. Raelsa proposes a wager. Vincent will soon have a duel against the sixth son of Samian. If he wins, Merlin must become his master. A few days later, Vincent was training. It still wasn't enough. He needs to make the power of the lightning giant completely his own. Vincent uses current boost, but it's not enough to cover the lightning around his blade. He needs to distribute the lightning like Malone did. He needs to increase the output, but it won't be that easy. Julian notices that Vincent is unable to control that power yet. Vincent feels the lightning filling his body, but that makes it much harder to control. Vincent reminds Julian of the reply they received from Raelsa. Then we see that reply. Raelsa writes to him that judging by the situation, they will not be able to get a master before the friendly exchange meeting. The reason is because of the rejection of the right person, and the second reason, the influence of the elders. The Council of Elders will not want Vincent to intervene in the succession plan they have formed. This group of elders exists to control the power of the patriarch, so even Khan will not be able to be of much help. Raelsa adds that she would like to help Vincent in some way, but she cannot abandon her duties for a prolonged period of time, so in the friendly exchange match, Vincent will have to fight with his own strength. He will have to use absolute sword slash as much as possible as well as the other traits. Julian comes up with another method they can use, the Samian swordsmanship. Vincent used to be a Samian, right? Besides, he used this technique in Hansen's smithy before. Vincent can use it, but then he has to handle the consequences. If he uses the Samian swordsmanship in public with experience, the mother will call them again. It is somewhat unfortunate that he is unable to use the swordsmanship from his previous life. There he thinks of something else. He thinks of some skills. Will he be able to use them in the current state? From there we go to the main castle of the Samian family, where a person was standing in front of a completely bound tiger. This boy will be Vincent's opponent, as he is informed by this bald man named Julian, the elder of the Samian family. The bald man warns the boy that Vincent has been using strange abilities despite being known as a good-for-nothing, and makes it clear that for the Samian, the friendly exchange match is an event that does more harm than good, because if they win, nothing will change, but if they lose, they will suffer complete humiliation. What people want to see in that event is how the underdog stands up and wins. The tiger breaks free from the chains, but the sixth son of Samian manages to cut him down using Keshak's blessing. To let the world know that this story does not exist, Kagan Samian, the sixth son, is determined to defeat Vincent. Selbra wants to present Vincent with an enchanted crystal, but upon entering, she encounters a huge blast of power coming from Vincent. His sword had changed. It was now a shade of purple. It was as if he was holding a sword other than the Crimson Lotus. It has been a while since these two have seen each other. Selbra shows the crystal to Vincent. It's not just any crystal. Inside the crystal is Kagan's spark, so Vincent accepts it happily. Vincent reproduces what is inside the glass, no matter how many times he looks at it. The technology of that era still fascinates him. Vincent notices something in Kagan's movements. Even though the opponent gives up on him, he doesn't stop and continues without mercy, and the facial expression he has, from start to finish, Kagan looks exactly like Kagan. That they look similar in appearance may be a coincidence, but the same techniques and movements plus the nasty little habits. Vincent wants to meet Kagan right away. Next, we see several people gathered to welcome the mages gathered for the proceedings of the friendly swap meet. This guy is the mage captain, Alberto. Alberto explains that the event consists of 3 stages: the treasure hunt to find the treasure of the enchanted dungeon, the subjugation against monsters that have been captured, and finally, the spar, which could be called the flowering of the friendly exchange meeting. The mages are responsible for the first level, the treasure hunt, so Albert would like to decide what kind of beasts they will create with magic. Vargan interrupts to speak. Taking into account the skills of the 2 young masters, he was thinking of reptiles or demons level 8. Those kind of monsters should be difficult enough for 3-star martial artists. It should be enough for the first level. However, the associates of the 6th magic tower propose giant beasts level 8, Fractor. Vargan is alarmed to hear this, as giants are difficult even for 4 or 5-star martial artists. This guy adds that it should be since it's been a while since the event has been held. Vargan is angry, as if giants are used, it will only make the 6th son of Samian look good. Things between these two are getting more and more heated, but Albert intervenes to stop them arguing. They will choose things with votes. Those who agree with the giants raise their hands. Surprisingly for Vargan, there are many who agree. Now, as they are in the majority, the giants are chosen. All these guys were dogs of the Samian, Alberto included. It's one day before the event starts. Herka is taking care of the paperwork as best he can. Herka asks Vargan what happened to the preparations for the first level, but he doesn't even want to talk about it. What they did there was disgusting. Everyone was in favor of the Samian. They assume that nothing can be done, since after all, the 6th magic tower is in Samian territory. Things will be fine as long as Vincent wins in the other levels. Herka asks Vargan if he really thinks Vincent can win. Herka recalls that Vargan had said that the odds of the young Adanka master winning were less than 10%. This when Abel was the candidate. Finally, the day of the event arrived. People were surprised to see Vincent covering Malone's place. Vincent keeps thinking about how much that brat Kagan looks like Kajan and talking about him. He makes an appearance. Kagan introduces himself to Vincent and they shake hands. They look pretty good. People thought Vincent would look inferior. Kagan is acting very friendly. Vincent doesn't notice anything odd about him. However, that smile is very off-putting. Kagan wants Vincent to prove himself. Vincent tells Kagan that he expects him to prove his talent to him. Vincent really thinks about winning. Although they are not yet in the arena, the friendly exchange match has already started for both of them. The crowd chant Kagan's name. Herka kicks off the event. The first level is the treasure hunt. The two participants will enter an enchanted space and must search for a chest similar to that. However, inside the enchanted space, there will be monsters made by sorcery. A giant fractor will be guarding the chest. The participants will select 2 cadets of rank 9 each to accompany them during this level. The last losers of this event, the Adanka, will choose cadets first. Herka believes that Vincent will initially select Selbera, but surprisingly, Vincent chooses Sizen and Harmon to accompany him. Both Sizen and Harmon have the lowest scores among the rank 9. Herka asks Vincent if he is sure he chose those 2, and he is correct. Herka hopes he is not using those 2 as an excuse for when he loses. But that is not the case. The reason he chose those 2 is because he doesn't want to give Kagan any excuse. And the second reason is because those 2 are quite distant. But they have Adanka family blood. It is important to defeat the Samian with the blood of the patriarch Arslan. Selbera wanted Vincent to choose her. He trusts and respects her. He was even able to defeat Malone because of her. He wishes Selbera luck in the event, but isn't he supposed to not choose her? Well, this is because Vincent is doing it to provoke Kagan, and it's working. Kagan's choice is the representative and vice representative, i.e., one of them is Selbera. Vargan knows that at least this level is ready for the Samian. He has no choice but to trust Vincent. Vargan confronts the stupid wizard from before. Then they open the portal to the enchanted dimension to start the event. It is quite dark inside. Sizen suggests Vincent use the magic crystal to be able to see better. As for Kagan, he says he doesn't need a light source and asks both Selbera and the other to walk a little further behind him. The spectators were waiting for the moment when the giants appear for things to get exciting. Vincent and Kagan are very different. One belittles his companions and the other does not. Harmon asks Vincent if they can really be of any help to him. He tells him not to worry, as they are both great martial artists who have overcome their fears. After saying this, there is an explosion that sends both of them flying. The first giant has appeared. It's too big and it kinda looks like a titan. It looked like Vincent was hit by the giant, but he is right on top of the monster preparing his attack. The plan is for Sizen and Harmon to distract the giant while Vincent searches for the chest. Fractor giants have very poor vision, so he will react immediately to the sounds they are making. It is just as Vincent had told them. They are both very brave. That said, Vincent goes off to find the chest. Herka and Vargan are alerted, as the level is just called a treasure hunt. But the important element is to demonstrate martial arts in the process. Why didn't they tell him earlier? Vincent soon after finds the chest, but it is not that easy, because just before he gets there, he meets another giant. The giant attacks Vincent. Vincent starts to plan a strategy. For the plan to succeed, he needs to save at least one hit of absolute sword slash. But having 2 giants makes things very difficult. Besides, this giant is much faster than the first one. He reacts quickly to Frostwalk moves. Vargan wonders why the hell there is another giant. This nasty wizard knew about it and says it was a simple mistake. Vargan confronts him, as someone like that doesn't deserve to carry the name of the 6th magic tower. Herka tells Vargan to stop, as there are many people watching. She understands why he is upset. But nothing will change. The wizard tells Herka that she is very calm. She kindly asks him to stay there once the event is over. Kagan's group is fighting the giant. They manage to cut off an arm. Well, managed. Kagan did, shortly after he defeats him and is somewhat disappointed as he was expecting more. Another giant appears behind him, but Kagan uses Samian swordsmanship, gentle steel, and manages to cut the giant while climbing up his arm. There are a lot of Attack on Titan references here. Kagan hits the giant. Selbera has a hard time admitting it, but Kagan is very strong. Despite all he has done to take down the 2 giants, he still has a lot of techniques up his sleeve. As for Vincent, he continues to fight the giant. Julian is frustrated because nothing goes according to plan. Julian has another plan, to use absolute sword slash to defeat both giants at once. But that won't be so easy, they are too big. If Vincent aims at one, he can't see the sword path for the other. Vincent thinks and comes up with something. Saizen and Harmon continue to draw the attention of the other giant, but they have nowhere to run. However, Vincent shows up to help them and brought the chest with him. Vincent tells them that the plan will change. Saizen and Harmon still didn't know there were two giants, but now they do, because they are right in front of each other. The giants prepare to attack. Saizen was very scared. Vincent tells Julian to get ready. The plan is for Julian to become the target of the giants. Just as Vincent expected, due to the size of the giants, he can't get a sword path for absolute sword slash and finish them both off at once. In that case, he needs to find something that intersects with them. Vincent can feel it, the other half of his soul, Julian's presence. Thanks to him he can see a sword path. Vincent uses absolute sword slash, chapter 1, Dwarf King, and with that he manages to defeat one of the giants, and then the other. Julian is afraid because he thinks that the blow will hit him, but it is not so. The people watched in amazement as Vincent defeated two giants at once with a single blow. Just as Vincent expected, even with absolute sword slash, he can't take down a god. That's why Julian is untouched. He complains to Vincent because he didn't know it from the beginning and still risked. Just now, Vincent was thinking, so he wonders how Julian hurt him. Saizen and the other ask Vincent if there is anyone else there, as they are not able to see Julian, so he has to pretend as if nothing is going on. Vincent saved the last strike of absolute sword slash for this, to slash his way through that entire space forged by magic. Vincent without any trouble managed to destroy the magic dungeon. The nasty wizard this one tells his minions to make sure there was no mistake with the spell, but there's no need for that, as Vincent's sword is able to cut through magic. Though Vargan didn't expect Vincent to end up cutting through the entire dungeon, though he's really impressed with the creative solution he had. Alberto starts babbling that Vincent should be disqualified for destroying the dungeon, but Herka explains that there is no rule against that, as no one had tried it before Vincent. Herka tells Alberto that for the captain of the magical association, who is supposed to be neutral, he looks rather annoyed, as if it's any of his business. Saizen hands the chest to Herka. The wizard says that Vincent hasn't won yet, as the first level is for a show of strength, no matter who finishes first. Kagan has not finished yet, so a winner cannot be decided. In the remaining time, if Kagan continues to demonstrate his martial arts, the victory will belong to the Samian. Vincent asks Vargan if the dungeon from before was made with the assembly element. He answers yes, as equal environments must be given to each competitor. Vincent says that he was able to break the dungeon he was in, so the mana that formed that dungeon, if before the water flowed in two directions. And now that Vincent has forcibly blocked one, the remaining mana will flow in one direction only, making the giant stronger. The giant, now stronger, attacks Kagan, but even though it has become stronger, everything indicated that the level of intelligence was still the same. With such a simple attack, Kagan is sure to cut off the giant's arm, or so he thought, because even though he tries to cut it off with the technique he used before, it doesn't hurt the giant. Kagan realizes that something must have happened outside, otherwise a monster that was dying a moment ago would not have become stronger. The giant is about to attack Kagan, who won't have time to adjust to take the blow. Then Selbera draws the giant's attention to distract him. Now they just have to look for the chest. Selbera wouldn't be doing this if Vincent hadn't told her to do her best. But things were far from over, because the first giant is also still alive, and is, like the other one, much stronger. Kagan goes berserk and lashes out at the giants out of frustration that his performance was ruined. He uses the last chapter, Bloody Full Moon, and manages to put both giants through at the same time with a single blow. Kagan was impressive from the start, had he not intentionally left the giants alive in the beginning to continue his performance. This would have been over sooner. Kagan is angry, even though he completed the level and took the chest. Even though Kagan's performance was probably better than Vincent's, it took much longer. Vincent was waiting for him outside with a smile, and asks him if he enjoyed the gift he left him. Kagan can't believe that Vincent finished before him, and he doesn't know what gift he is referring to either. Vincent explains that he has a friend who is quite good at sorcery, and thanks to him he was able to overflow the mana in the dungeon Kagan was in. Vincent's plan was to make Kagan look like an idiot from the beginning of that level, but he calms down and accepts his defeat. However, he makes it clear to Vincent that it will be different from now on, as he has now started to see him as a true friend. Yeah, sure. Herka says that if they decide who is victorious, then why do they have a jury? Anyway, the victory goes to Vincent anyway. The next level will be held in 3 days. Selbera is reassured that Vincent won, Then she runs into Kagan, who tells her that he didn't get a chance to thank her. Kagan tries to shake Selbera's hand, but she has a strong feeling that it's a bad idea to touch his hand. But in the end she accepts and Kagan says goodbye. Did he really go there to thank Selbera? It doesn't look like it, because with an unhinged look on his face, Kagan says goodbye to Selbera. From there we go to Sari, who is in her training meditating, managing to summon several animals around her. Then Wilson arrives, who brings her food and clothes. Sari asks Wilson how Vincent did in the competition. Wilson replies that she clearly managed to win. Wilson asks Sari if it is not difficult to train there. She says yes, but clarifies that when she is in the fortress, she cannot concentrate because she is distracted by Vincent. Besides, Vargan told Sari that it would be better for her to train there, as it would be easier for her to communicate with the spirits of the snowy mountain. Sari needs to find a spirit to form a contract with soon. At Sari's level, she can only handle one, but she would like to have many. Moments later, Sari hears someone calling for help. Wilson didn't hear anyone, but she continues to hear someone's voice calling for help. Meanwhile, Selbera and the rest of the cadets were celebrating Vincent's victory. Vincent tells Selbera that she has only got 1 point, there is still competition left. Vincent tells Selbera that she was a crucial factor in his victory, because he knew she could play an important role in helping Kagan. Kagan and Vincent may have similar levels, but Selbera played a vital role in Kagan's victory, so at the end of the day, Vincent would have everything going for him. Selbera is ready to help Vincent in whatever he needs. They both bump fists to reaffirm their mutual trust. But while doing so, Vincent notices something. He wonders when and how. Selbera misunderstands and thinks it's something romantic. But Selbera has on her arm the Samian's chain seal. Vincent quickly asks Selbera if something happened with the Samian, physical contact or similar. That's when she remembers that Kagan shook her hand before with thank you intentions. Yes, sure. The chain seal is more of a curse. It is a skill that gradually suffocates the opponent's mana and slowly brings him to his death. Vincent can't believe that Kagan has fallen so low. Julian asks Vincent if he knows how to undo the curse, but for that, they first have to determine what type of chain seal it is. Depending on the seal, the method of undoing it is different. Vincent tells Selbera to train together every day at dawn. She still doesn't understand what is going on and thinks it is something romantic. The next morning, Vincent waits for Selbera to train. He mentions that if Kagan placed a curse on her, it's because he's sure that no one will notice, because no one knows about the chain seal. Maybe that technique has been erased from history, just like absolute sword slash or the magic body. Julian tells Vincent that it's best to keep that between them for now, including Selbera. Vincent won't forgive Kagan. That idiot used magic on someone who is irrelevant to the competition. Moments later, Selbera arrives for training, albeit a little late, and is dressed as if she is on a date. Vincent asks her why she is dressed like that for training. Seeing that the foolish Vincent doesn't notice, Julian tells her that she likes him, but he considers her too young. He was 29 years old 500 years ago. The two hold hands. To circulate the mana, Vincent tells her that if she senses anything strange she should let him know immediately. Although Selbera's mana flow is unusual, she doesn't realize what is happening. It must be because martial artists have lost too much since the days when imagery theory was first used. Vincent realizes that she can't undo the seal. It's stronger than she thought. They need an offering to undo the seal, the heart of an animal, spirit or human. Probably Kagan has sealed the offering somewhere in the snowy mountain. Only if they manage to find the offering and release it, the seal will be undone. If they can't, Selbera will die in 3 days. Julian may sound heartless, but the priority for him is the friendly exchange match. In 3 days the second round starts. They can't not prepare for it. Vincent hopes Julian realizes what is more important. Those who pursue only targets will lose their people. Vincent would have had the comrades he lost to the Samian. He wouldn't have spent the rest of his life in prison. The training between these two ends for now. Vincent knows about this seal because he experienced something similar before when he was locked up and his mana was sealed. He heard that they used the heart of a prisoner who would serve a death sentence at that time. Julian asks Vincent about the crime he committed that led to his imprisonment. Selbera faints, so they take her to the treatment room, where she just has to rest. It's the first time the priest sees so many symptoms at once. He tells Vincent that the best thing to do is to send Selbera to Gaia's temple in the capital. But will they be able to undo the seal there? It's an ability that was erased from history. Vincent doesn't think it's possible to help her there. Besides, the seal's progress is very fast, and it's likely that if they take Selbera to the capital, she won't even last the whole trip. Vincent tells Shevin to take good care of Selbera. There is only one thing Vincent can do, find the sacrifice that was used for the chain seal on that huge snowy mountain. Vincent will not lose another person to a Samian using dirty tricks again. We return to Sari, who continues to hear cries for help. It sounds like the voice of a spirit, but far away. Then she feels chills, and moments later, she realizes that Vincent is there too. Vincent asks Sari what she is doing there. Vincent explains the whole situation to Sari and that he is in search of what was used as a sacrifice for the seal. It is likely that whatever was used for the sacrifice is something small, a small creature or a spirit. Sari believes she can be of help. The seal continues to advance on Selbera's body. Vincent charges Sari to move faster through the mountains. Sari tells him she can hear something between that canyon. They descend in search of the cries for help, which may be related to the seal placed on Selbera. Vincent is not that he doesn't believe Sari, but he knows Selbera doesn't have much time, so he thinks it's a waste of time to look for a spirit there. Vincent tells Sari that they don't have much time, so if the spirit is around, he will destroy the whole region to break the chain seal. However, he realizes that Sari found something. It was the spirit, and it has the same chains as Selbera. Sari asks Vincent if there is any way to help the spirit, but Vincent says no. Since the spirit became the sacrifice to the chain seal, it would be best to kill it peacefully. However, Sari tells him that there is another way. Sari begins to conjure a spell. She is trying to make a contract with the spirit. If she succeeds in forming a contract with the spirit, then the contract will be over the chain seal. Moments later, the chains are broken and the curse is undone. It looked like it was all over there, but suddenly they are attacked. Vincent moves quickly to defend Sari. The person attacking them is none other than Kagan, who is angry that Vincent broke the curse, but more angry is Vincent. Kagan tells Vincent that because of what he did, he caused a huge diplomatic dispute against the Samian. Kagan tells them that he will let them go if they leave the spirit there and leave. Vincent reproaches Kagan for the fact that he tried to kill Selbera. Kagan feels superior to Selbera, and because he felt that she tried to ruin his plans, he wanted to kill her. Kagan tells Vincent that as they are both of the same class, then he should understand his actions. Vincent points his sword at Kagan and tells him that his people haven't changed at all for 500 years. Kagan likes Vincent's eyes, but it is because of those eyes that he doesn't think they can become good friends. In the friendly exchange meeting, they will decide who is right in the end. Selbera is released from the curse and opens her eyes. Then Vincent enters desperate to see her and asks Selbera to show him her hand. Sure enough, the chain seal has completely vanished. She is now safe. Shevin reminds Vincent that there are only 2 days left before the second round, so he tells him that he must prepare himself. During the second level, they will face a real monster, the Battle of Subjugation. Meanwhile, in the main castle Adenka, the newspapers were talking about Vincent's feat of winning the first round of the event. One of the 4 great elders of Adenka, Iagal, refuses to believe it. Actually, none of the 4 great elders could believe it, neither Fidenel nor Delbek. They are angry because for the last 25 years they have not been able to do their own thing, because Khan Adenka is the patriarch in all that time. Khan has been someone who constantly expresses his displeasure to the elders since he was young. Fidenel mentions that this is precisely why they are sponsoring the first son and second daughter as successors. The first son, Carmen, has great ambition, while the second daughter, Dea, has no interest in anything but martial arts. The elders' plan is to have one of these two as the next patriarch to rule the Adenka by using them as puppets. That's when they come up with something that goes against everything they are planning. What if Vincent wins against the Samian? The elders already know that Vincent's name was engraved on the monument by Khan, and that he uses Crimson Lotus, the sword that Khan used to use when he was a child. Delbek mentions that right now Khan is using Vincent to point his sword at the elders, so they decide that they can't allow Vincent to keep making achievements. But how will they do that? Then the last of the 4 elders, Tilavan Adenka, enters the scene and proposes to send a letter to the Samian, the content of which is as follows. The Adenka will not consider the lawlessness of the Samian during the first level a problem. However, on the second level, they will proceed under the direction of the Adenka. 2 days later, the second level of the event began, the Battle of Subjugation. There is only one rule: pulverize the monster in front of you in the shortest time possible. The monster they will face is a lizardman. They are known for forging large spears from animal skeletons. The lizardman attacks Kagan and gave the impression that he had disappeared, but he was upstairs preparing to counterattack. In one attack, he manages to cut the lizardman in 2, all this in just under 15 seconds. It is a new record. He even beat Dea. She had taken 20 seconds to finish off the lizardman. The crowd was impressed with Kagan's performance. He then threatens Vincent and tells him that the next thing he will stab is him. Julian asks Vincent how he plans to break the record. Vincent asks him to calm down, as there is no way they will lose when it comes to speed. Vincent prepares for the fight. He is ready to fight. The second level for the Adanka begins. However, Vincent notices that lizardman is in a strange state. This is the work of Tilavan Adanka, although at first he denies that he has done nothing to the monster that Vincent will face. He did not use any special magic or trick and captured a similar lizardman that Kagan would face. But what happens is this, that lizardman that Vincent would face has not been fed in 2 days. Tilavan knows that a normal martial artist would not notice. But a starving lizardman is dangerous enough that he cannot be defeated in a matter of seconds. Vincent already knows that the monster is hungry. The monster is released and the fight begins. Vincent should start dodging. But if he does, he won't be able to break Kagan's record. So if that's the case, Vincent will have to improvise. Everyone was surprised to see that Vincent wasn't planning to dodge the attack, surprisingly. He lets himself be pierced with the lizardman's spear. But thanks to that, he can shorten the time in which he will defeat it. If he is pierced like that, Vincent should just let out his lightning. Vincent uses the lightning giant's blessing trait, causing a huge explosion that even scares Vargan, who wants to call the priests of the fortress, but Herka asks him to calm down. Ironically, Herka thinks that Vincent was possessed by a spirit that died before defeating the Samian. How ironic, isn't it? This girl reads the manhwa. Surprisingly, in just 5 seconds, Vincent manages to defeat the lizardman, breaking Kagan's record. Shevin runs to help him, as it is a serious wound. They must take out the spear first. After that, they will heal him simultaneously. Kagan is angry after seeing the barbaric method used by Vincent. To make him more annoyed, Vincent looks at him and smiles. This concludes the second level. The third level will be in 3 days. This mysterious woman wonders if Vincent is Sarvana's son. She can't wait to meet him. Shevin wanted to enter the Crimson Fortress because he had heard it was an easy job, and it was, but before Vincent signed up. Thanks to Shevin, Vincent's wound was healed. He thanks him and tells him it was like a miracle. Shevin clarifies that he is not the owner of that wooden token. In fact, it is impossible for him to give it the same level of treatment as the original owner of the token. Shevin explains that Vincent experienced something similar to a miracle. The treatments of second-class priests are indeed miraculous, but Shevin is a 5th-class priest. The treatment he can offer is equivalent to sewing and gluing back together. In short, Vincent's heart is not completely healed yet. Shevin warns him that if he suffers before he is fully healed, he will not be able to use mana anymore. Herka enters to see Vincent, but not only that, she also reports that the patriarch and matriarch of the Adanka and Samian families have come. The Samian have invited Vincent and his father to dinner. Vincent wonders what the Samian want to achieve with this invitation. There they meet the woman we saw earlier. She is the matriarch of the Samian, Valkia. She is one of the rulers of the continent. Valkia asks Khan where he's been hiding Vincent all this time. Vincent is put on guard after Valkia's move. She realizes that Vincent reacted to the mana she secretly emitted. Vincent quickly realizes how strong she is. She emits deadly energy and has razor-sharp mana. Valkia recognizes that Vincent has good senses, while he awaits the day when he has to face her. Khan asks Vincent why he is smiling, and he replies that it is because Valkia is strong. Just as Valkia did, Khan does the same to Kagan, although Kagan doesn't end up drawing his sword in the middle of dinner. Julian confirms to Vincent that Valkia and Khan have a Kai fight to see which son is better. Valkia later acknowledges that Vincent is very good. Valkia tells Khan that she can't believe they dared to interfere in the event when the matriarch and patriarch were watching. Khan mentions that it may be the work of the elders of Samian. Valkia tells him that he is half correct. She knows that the first level was the work of the elders of Samian, but the second level was the work of the elders of Adanka. She tells Khan that it is likely that the 4 elders are targeting Vincent. They may have different opinions, but their problems are a common variable, Vincent, and that is why they want to get rid of him. Khan gets serious and tells Valkia that the Adanka will definitely outnumber the Samian. Valkia tells Khan that if they haven't made it in the last 500 years, it should be time for them to give up. As for the elders who sabotaged the event, Khan mentions that no one is left alive on that continent after cheating in front of his eyes. Khan clarifies that nothing will stop Vincent's victory in the 3rd stage. This is because Vincent promised him that he would return victorious. The day of the final stage arrives. The audience notices the presence of Khan and Valkia. The 3rd stage is about to begin. The most awaited duel is about to start. Julian tells Vincent not to forget the current situation he is in. The most Vincent's wounded heart will take is a single hit of absolute sword slash. He needs to find an opening to come out victorious. Vincent will start by using Lightning Giant to test Kagan. Kagan easily stops him with one hand. Kagan manifested a fiery crimson mana. Vincent recognizes it immediately. He couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. The hidden mana technique that caused the last defeat. This is Crimson Emperor's might. Kagan realizes that Vincent recognizes the technique, then starts to attack him. Vincent has to use body strengthening on the Crimson Lotus and block it. But surprisingly, he was slashed. Kagan's speed was impressive. The Crimson Emperor's might has no such effect. Kagan has far surpassed the young Kagan's skills. Kagan gives no respite and attacks again. Vincent has no choice but to defend himself from the attacks. The clash of both swords caused a big explosion. Vincent knows that the Crimson Emperor's might is weak in long battles, so if he controls the timing well he could achieve something. But Kagan refused to leave any opening. Then he uses New Moon Slash, breaking a big part of the arena. Kagan was completely freaked out. He thought the battle was over, but it had just begun. Vincent used Ameloon's swordsmanship, quick greatsword defense. We see a flashback where Kagan was doing his thing, treating people as he pleased. Davin was just watching. Next, we meet this guy, Ameloon. Although he prefers to be called Falcon, he is a member of Samian's gladiators. Was. Davin met him in the fighting arena. They were among the gladiators who would make Kagan shine. Falcon knew that Vincent's dream was to defeat Kagan, but he didn't think it was a foolish dream. In fact, he was confident that he would achieve it. Falcon was a great friend of Davin's. He supported him to the end without ignoring his dream. But he became too strong too fast, and became a target of Samian's Council of Elders, who set him up and killed him. But he left behind his swordsmanship, and it is the one Vincent uses right now. It is an ability that is the complete opposite of the Samian's abilities, plus it uses very little mana. Kagan is surprised to see this swordsmanship. Vincent tells him that this skill belongs to someone who was sacrificed by the Samian. Upon hearing this, Kagan assumes that it is a useless skill and prepares to attack. Kagan uses another of his techniques and moves quickly in front of Vincent. It is a great power. Vincent feels that he is fighting against the adult Kagan. Kagan wants to finish the fight quickly, then disappears, then reappears, but Vincent knew which direction to dodge. This because he knew he would land on his right foot first. Now he knows he will jump in the air to dodge. Vincent reads it like a book because of Kagan's arrogant personality. Vincent strikes back. Now it is very clear to him. Kagan uses exactly the same strategies as Kagan. It would mean that he is incredibly powerful, but this has a different meaning for Vincent, because nobody else in the world knows Kagan's swordsmanship as well as he does. Kagan was a genius. He could control any situation with his strength, but if something unexpected that he couldn't control happened, he would completely lose his common sense. Kagan resembles Kagan even in his shortcomings. Vincent prepares his attack. Ameloon's swordsmanship, Chapter 1. Then the two clash swords and surprisingly, Kagan's sword slashes. The crowd goes wild. Vincent is thankful that it's over quickly, as the absolute sword slash isn't the only skill that affects his heart. However, Kagan won't give up. Vincent notices that his mana concentration has become stronger. Kagan has a trick up his sleeve, Sword God Keshak's blessing trait. Both Khan and even Valkia were surprised at what was happening. She didn't even know that her son possessed this trait. The Sword God Keshak's blessing bestows an incredible talent of swordsmanship on those who possess it, but when it reaches its peak, it gains another trait, and the power of that trait turns the sword into another element of imagery. Kagan is at the peak of his 4-star limit. Vincent does not recognize this trait. It is dangerous for Kagan, as he spent most of his strength using the Crimson Emperor's might. It is dangerous for him to use another greater power simultaneously. But Kagan does not care that Vincent cares about him. Without words, Kagan attacks Vincent, who barely manages to block the blow. The clash of swords was so strong that even the spectators felt all the pressure in the air. Ameloon's sword breaks. Kagan remembers the smile with which Vincent looked at him in the second stage, and as Vincent risked everything in the second stage, he will also risk everything in this one, even if his body is broken by Keshak's strength. He is determined to defeat Vincent. This guy is definitely like Kagan. Vincent refuses to be defeated, so he will also put his life on the line. They both fight with all their might. Ameloon's sword is completely broken, but Vincent still has a chance. Then he swings his fist at Kagan and knocks him back. Both have reached the limit. Vincent will bet everything on the next